Hey guys, what's going on? It's Space Cowboy here. Welcome back to the channel with another video for you guys here today. Before we get started, if you guys can hit the like button, that'd be greatly appreciated. It doesn't take long to do whatsoever. And on top of that, it helps the channel out a lot. Also, subscribe if you're new and hit that notification bell if you want more Cowboys content in your feed. So with that out of the way, got to talk about Micah Parsons because he has been the talk of the town of recent on Twitter and throughout many in the Cowboys space. And it's because of things that he's been saying. Some of it with talking about the Eagles, him wanting them to win for the division, and then talking highly about certain players, and then talking about how he wants the Cowboys front office to do certain things and not understanding why they made certain moves. There's a lot going on here. And so I kind of want to go bit by bit so that I can get my thoughts out there. So to start things off with the whole Eagles and him supporting them and talking to Lane Johnson, I personally don't care. If you know how the NFL operates, the rivalries are more of the fans than it is really the players most of the time. I'm not trying to sit here and say like the rivalries don't exist amongst players, because they do. We've seen that in years past, and we know that nowadays it's not as prevalent as it was back then. And I think that while you still have that bad blood here and there, it's not as serious as it once was. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's how it is. So when you have Micah Parsons going out and saying these things about supporting the Eagles and doing stuff while he is from Pennsylvania and all that other stuff, I don't care what he says. At the end of the day, these guys can say whatever they want as long as it's nothing that's derogatory or causing legitimate problems. I can understand, though, where people can get annoyed with it. Micah, why are you praising the Eagles? They're a division rival. What the heck are you doing? This, that, and the third. And I think if Micah was just like a random linebacker and not this top-tier player who's looked at as DPOY every single year of his career in the last 2 seasons we're here, I think we're having a different conversation, but I don't really care. Look, at the end of the day, Micah Parsons, if he's going to talk that talk, he's got to walk that walk. And I understand that we kind of came to a understanding that he was banged up and he was playing through that. And as a result, he didn't get as much sacks towards the end. But he has 13 and a half sacks, I believe, in the last 2 seasons. Or it's like 13 sacks and 13 and a half. Like, he's been very productive. He's been the Cowboys sack leader in the last 2 seasons, and that's important. He's been a massive impact on this team. Now you're seeing people be like, okay, you should trade him to Philadelphia or get rid of him. And this is the type of stuff I don't understand. Now listen, there are things you have to think about. Like, okay, if we can't get a player signed, then that's when you have to pull the trigger and be like, okay, we'll trade him and flip him and stuff like that. You got to consider that for every player. That's just how GMing is in the NFL. However, when it comes to a player like Micah Parsons, he is who he is. If you know who Micah Parsons is, which I'm not trying to pull that authority type of argument, but me watching him go through Penn State, this is the type of guy he is. That's just how he is. And then he's being vocal about the Cowboys. Go get Deron Payne. Go get a receiver. Go get this and that. That's just how Micah Parsons is. And honestly, it's annoying because there are Cowboys fans that say, oh, I want someone that can be vocal and talk about how the team is this and that. And when he talks about it, then it's all of a sudden it's a problem. And I don't get that. I just don't get that. I think that for me, I like the players being vocal because at the end of the day in Dallas, what has been the common denominator here? The country club mentality. Now, that doesn't mean that there are players that talk all that talk and they kind of just get in line, because that has happened. But what I will say is that I have seen players walk through these doors like certain individuals like Jalen Smith and be like, hey, if you got a problem, go talk with Jerry, because let the film do the talking, this, that, and the third. And it's just like, okay, even though you weren't putting the best film out there and you eventually got cut. With Micah Parsons, he's playing very damn well. Being in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year, yeah, you can talk, do whatever you want. But what I hope I see moving forward is that as we're kind of getting further and further away from the Cowboys' last title and knowing how things are run in Dallas, you're going to start seeing people like, look what CeeDee Lamb's been saying. We covered this in the last video. But the reason I'm talking about Micah Parsons in particular is just I don't understand why fans are getting mad when they also want someone to speak up and be a vocal leader. Like when Dez was here, people had the same, oh, he has these outbursts, or oh, he doesn't know when to shut up. But it's like, then all of a sudden when Dez leaves, it's like, oh, we want more. Like, what the hell are we doing? I don't get it. Like, it's like people want things, but then when we get things, they don't want them anymore. I just don't understand it. It's like sometimes it's like I don't think people really understand what they're saying, and I'm not trying to act like I'm high and mighty with that. Like, I understand the sentiment. Hey, I don't want Micah Parsons talking about the Eagles because at the end of the day, dude, that's your division rival. And, what the hell are you doing trying to gas them up? I get that point. For me, I just kind of look at it like, okay, whatever. As long as you show up on Sunday or whatever day you play and you do your thing, I could give a damn what you say, again, as long as it's not something ridiculously stupid, that's going to cause a problem. So there's that. And on top of that, like, this is something that Dallas needs. Like, I want you to think about this. If Micah Parsons continues on this trend of talking about how the front office is doing things, talking about how the team does certain things, Amari Cooper didn't say a whole lot, right? Amari Cooper just said, like, okay, I don't understand why we run these routes all the time, and I don't understand why sometimes I don't get the ball, and he was shipped out. Do I think the Cowboys would do the same to Micah Parsons? I don't think so, because Micah Parsons was drafted by the Cowboys, and I could be wrong. This could age poorly, but, I mean, if the Cowboys trade Micah Parsons because they think that he's too outspoken, then what the hell are we doing here? This country club mentality is also evident from the top down, and that's why I'm very big on it. Like, Jerry and Steven, if you don't want any players to speak out, that's fine. Like, I'm not trying to sit here and say that every player should complain about something. That's not what I'm getting at. My thing is that when we see results that are not satisfactory, we have a right to complain about that as fans and the players too, right? Like, if we're going to sit here and talk about how Micah Parsons is mad about how the Joneses are handling things, and then you're also going to complain how Micah Parsons is talking about the team like that, don't we also do the same thing? Like, what? Like, we don't do that type of stuff here, right? Like, we don't do this thing where it's like, okay, it's okay when we say it, but when the players say it, it's a problem. And for me, I'm not going to root for Philadelphia or any division rival. I don't care what they do. If they won Super Bowl 57, congrats to them. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to trash talk that they lost. That's just not in my DNA. Unless someone was really being an ass about it and provoking me, then I can understand. But for me, I stay in my lane. I think Micah's in his. I'm going to let him do his thing. If people voice their concerns, sure, I don't have a problem, but at the end of the day, guys, that's just who he is, and I don't have a problem. I don't see what the issue is, but or rather, I see why people make an issue of it, but I don't really care. So with that being said, I hope that clarifies some thoughts, because I did talk about that on Twitter. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, guys, have a good one. Goodbye.